2. Dave Chappelle on the concept of community. 20 years later, the comedian Dave Chappelle asked me to direct a documentary about a concert he was organizing in honor of his musician friend who had been faithful to him since before the success of his TV show. It was to be a celebration of his community. I first thought, wow, why he's asking me, a white French guy coming out of the white nondescript French suburb, to direct a tribute to his musical community? I felt suddenly important at the top of the mountain. But wait a second. I knew what was happening. He had asked Spike Jonze, who was probably too busy. Yes, 100% sure that's what it was. Anyway, sometimes being the second choice is better than straight-up rejection. So I acted like a third choice. Wait, now guilt was waiting around the corner. Me, a white director about to steal the potential job of a black director? Now it was the image of another spy that came to poke at my legitimacy. Liz, that is. Well, Dave asked me, so I figured I had to do an honest job and try to shoot in a decent fashion what all these people had to say to the world. And I guess try to understand them in the process. That was the harder part. I didn't see it coming, but when I started the project, my comprehension of English dropped from 45% to 7%. That's 93% of comprehension that I had to pretend. A constant head nodding with an occasional vague expression of agreement for good measure. And every time the conversation would take a sharp turn, my brain would continue straight ahead at full speed and smash into a wall of abstraction. People who share time, cultural influence, and sometimes a background use shortcuts to communicate with one another, like my brother Olivier and I. We're always mumbling to each other, probably because each time one of us starts a sentence, the other knows exactly how it's going to finish. So the first one, knowing that the second one has understood the sentence, doesn't bother to finish it. He just mumbles it to act as human as possible. On that note, I would like to sidetrack you with a simple theory I developed while trying to communicate my idea during my shoot. When you give instruction to a colleague for a task you need done, you must try to condense all the important information into the first sentence, because that's the only one he will listen to. After the first sentence, the colleague will know that sensible point, giving you the impression of his listening, but in fact, he will already be trying to solve in his head the problem exposed in the first sentence. All the information provided in the following sentences will be lost to oblivion. Worse, you will believe wrongly that the information is actually being absorbed. I ran into so many communication problems until I discovered this phenomenon that I thought it would be a nice gesture to share it at this juncture. End of digression. In this ongoing misunderstanding, I had only one advantage. Dave and his friends didn't understand a single word from me either. And yes, I was speaking a sort of English. It gave me a slim 7% lead over them. I remember the first conference call with Dave and all the band. Kanye, Dead Prez, Mos Def, The Roots, Jill Scott, and all. I gave them my salesman speech for 10 minutes and then silence. Erykah Badu broke it by saying, I didn't understand one word of what he said, but it must be good because he's French and they have Chanel over there. Dave then had to repeat my whole pitch. He was used to my accent by then. For some inexplicable reason, a film eventually emerged from the multi-layered or multicultural chaos. The magic of Dave, the emotion of the Fugees reunion, those golf kids who were calling the N-word because they peed on the court, the marching band from Ohio jumping in excitement where they found out they could come to Brooklyn for the concert. All of the images that went into the camera and the many more that went into my head tapped into a territory I had never dared enter until then. People. More people than one or two. Group of people. Community. Many times I heard, this concert is about the community. What community? African American? Rappers? Rappers with a message? Nostalgic rappers? Nostalgic rappers with a message? Wow, this whole community thing is getting complicated. I guess I should not write on a subject I don't understand. I looked up community in Wikipedia, and it mentioned something about Gemeinschaft, people bound by a common family, belief, or ethnicity. In contrast, Gesellschaft is classified more as a group bound by self-interest, like an association. Well, in this case, the Bloc Party was a bit of both. Mostly self-motivated African Americans participating in a celebration of their common bond within the community. I know, I've ended up exactly where I started, but there is no better way to describe my confusion about this project. As vague as my understanding of the concert was, I knew that Versailles, the mall, the water towers were just my background. They were nothing to bond me with my neighbors. The shag carpet, the spherical speaker designed by my father, consumerism, and easy listening TV shows had all succeeded in swallowing any need for community. It seemed that community was replaced by comfort. I don't think I would want to see a concert about Versailles. Everybody would have to wear a big white wig to create a sense of identity. White wig versus White Castle? Sorry, that was terrible. My Tourette just shrugged again. Did you know that many jazz drummers have Tourette syndrome? There is even a community of jazz drummers with Tourette who gather every year to play together. That must sound like hip-hop. I am an amateur drummer, and my Tourette is mild, just by jokes. To finish with the Dave Chappelle concert, the only way I could understand the meaning of the Bloc Party was from my own frame of reference. I only had my background, and Dave's peers were part of a community. Not a community compared with another community, but a community compared with an absence of community. That's a very basic statement, but a valid and useful one to keep in mind when exposed to differences. This became apparent once I was hanging out with Dave and his friend at a comedy festival in the mountains. It's a simple example, so don't think I'm making generalization. It's just about Dave and his group of friends, which I guess can count as a community. My son Paul, who was 14 at the time, had come along with me and rebounded with the crew. The night of Dave's performance at the festival, Dave and his friend promised Paul that they would go snowboarding with them the next morning. Paul was very excited with his prospect, but didn't realize that they would be up all night. I told him, Paul, I guarantee you they won't get up until the afternoon, so you better go snowboarding with other guys or on your own. That night the crew and I were hanging and hanging and hanging. Nothing was happening, at least that I could sense. Selfishly thinking of my son, I asked Corey, Dave's music supervisor, why can't you guys go to sleep now, so that you can wake up at a normal hour tomorrow? He responded, you don't stop the vibe, Michel. You don't stop the vibe. That's why. Damn it, what's the vibe? A collective mood? Intellectual exchange? Laughter? My excellent friend and director of photography, Jean-Louis Bonpoint, plays the vibes, but he learned it from Lionel Hampton. It's not the same, and I know I'm not even funny anymore. The answer came on a different occasion in Dave's hometown with the same people in addition to Mos Def and Dave's mother. I had just screened The Science of Sleep to them, and we were having dinner. Long after dessert, we were hanging and hanging and hanging at the table. Not much was said. I was trying to feel the vibe. I had all my technological equipment ready to detect any type of vibration that my five senses might miss. Nothing. 2 hours later, like the Big Bang, it came out of nothing, out of nowhere. An idea. An idea to do a comedy tour in jails all over the United States. Everyone began throwing concepts and ideas onto the table to enrich the project. Laughter is close to sex, which is dramatically lacking in incarceration environment. We have our core audience right there. I even dared the joke. The heckler would set be free. In stand-up clubs, hecklers are escorted outside by security people. Once more, it took Dave repeating my sentence to get any laugh. That night, I understood why Corey had meant by the vibe, on one I've never managed to make a hip-hop video. I was never there at the right time. Maybe the vibe is this invisible and secret way people from a community communicate, while the language itself is mostly used to confuse the outsider. If so, then my brother and I would belong to the Mumblers, a dangerous Versailles gang that assault its rivals with obscure and incomprehensible concepts. I guess knowing that I had no experience the feeling of belonging to a group outside my family made me tolerant, the main quality required to shoot a documentary. The advantages of this perspective became clear as I started to interview Dave and his friends. I became acutely aware of what could transpire from being part of a community. As for my fear and complex about cultural inadequacy, I can proudly say that I passed the test. African Americans, including those who were part of the Brooklyn community, loved the film. Once, I was even invited to an all-black fraternity at MIT to talk about it. They all assumed I was black. To top it all off, I met Spike Lee once, and he let me know how happy he was that I had taken on the project. I think that by being careful, I avoided the danger of simplification, obvious shortcuts, or manipulative imagery association that can make a documentary dishonest.